Warning, this video is not accurately tested and my typical YouTuber voice may scare away the SnowRunner player base. Also, I'd just like to show off that I somehow broke all the lights on the front of this Chevy, so it was entirely pitch black while driving and not even the running lights were on. I didn't even know that was possible in this game. Anyway, welcome to the culmination of 3 days of recording and 2 weeks of editing. This is the Basegame scout test on Almaty, and all the scouts were tested using their best setups, excluding the fire truck add-on on a Lodestar because I think it's sick, and I've driven them to the best of my ability, meaning a shift into and out of low gear whenever needed, and into and out of all-wheel drive if one of them needs power. Also, any jump cuts means I made a mistake and I won't let that reflect the vehicle's final time, and if you see a frame freeze, that's because my computer froze for a second. Great stuff. Anyway, let's go over our contenders before they reach the route, and pay attention to the screen if you want the stats, because I'll have to be brief with the voiceover here. In the top left is the Chevrolet CK 1500, which is a very consistent scout that recently got a buff that makes it fantastic as a support vehicle. It'll generally go through anything as long as it isn't insanely deep. Next is a Scout 800, which is a little bit tippy, but is very good in deep conditions and has a ton of buff support potential too. I used this to scout and repair trucks in both base game and DLC regions. Then the Hummer H2, which is super fast and easy to drive on tarmac, but I honestly think it's a total joke considering it doesn't do as well off-road as people say it does. The International Lodestar is basically an actual truck in the scout class, so it's probably the most capable scout here today. If you disagree, you're wrong. The Don 71 likes to roleplay as a soccer ball, but it's fun to drive besides that, especially on roads. Which for some reason it's way faster in DLC regions than it is in normal region. Tuz 166 is extremely fuel economical in some setups, but I think it's mediocre since it didn't serve me well in Russia. To me, fuel economy isn't even a stat since you can just bring a scout fuel trailer or something. Or just bring another truck to fuel it up. Though I guess it defeats the purpose of scouting. Anyway, Loaf is the fan favorite here, and it recently got a buff, so I'll show the pre-buff Loaf in red and the new Loaf in green. And finally, the Yara 87, which is widely considered the best base game scout in the game besides the Tatarin, and we'll show the Tatarin at the end of the video, because if you know, you know. We'll start our testing at Rock Slide River, which was the biggest struggle for the lower trucks such as the Hummer and Old Loaf, which got stuck on a rock, as you can see in the yard footage. The new Loaf, with his massive tires, got through it just fine, aside from that rollover, and for all these tests I'm running it with Raise instead of Crawler, since it was faster in testing, and I think ground clearance is more important than stability when it comes to scouts, since they have an autonomous winch which fixes most mistakes. By the way, did you guys see how the Don absolutely smashed this test? Yeah, anyway, the next test is at the rock climb. The Tuz and Don really impressed me here since both were absolutely ripping it up the mountain, and I'm impressed that the 800 didn't backflip off a rock or something. As a matter of fact, that's what the Loaf and Hummer were doing. The Yar came first this time, which is weird to me considering I thought it got stuck between rocks, and since that thing is the size of the truck on top of this hill. While we wait for these guys to finish, I'd like to clarify that some of this video may look badly edited. This is because I spent 3 weeks on this now, and I had to fix it several times due to, you guessed it, bad editing. Plus, getting all the times listed took forever too, since my editing software kept lagging on me due to all the clips on the screen, so you'll just have to take whatever you can see with a grain of salt. Coming up to the third test, it is the crawl. It's basically all deep mud, so I'm fast forwarding this since we have already seen the gist of what these vehicles can do. The two big boys were absolutely destroying this test, as expected, and I had to use the winch on a ton of trucks here to get past that first rock. Depressingly, the 800 seems like it's really sucking right now, which is going to do for the rest of this video, which is really funny because I came into this thinking it was going to destroy everything, and I could tell everyone in the SnowRunner Discord, haha, you're wrong, the 800 is actually the best scout in the game for everything. I guess not. Anyway, the Hummer looked like it got a good time, but then it got stuck in the water right at the end, so the Don got 3rd place instead, the CK following right behind it. Those two have been neck and neck this entire test so far. I just took it split from the old loaf's time and assumed that's what it finished at the end. Next up is the Azov 5319's lunch, which is all dirt and some mud left by the tire tracks of the 5319, hence the name. The Hummer was absolutely flying through this test up until it got beached on the hill, and the yard was going really slowly for some reason, which probably wasn't helped by the fact that it got lost in the woods later. Somehow, the Tuz almost came last, so I guess it really doesn't like dirt. And for some reason I'm noticing, why do all the scouts drive really slowly in dirt compared to trucks? It's like, this is basically supposed to be a tarmac road for them, but it's making the trucks really struggle for some reason. This is one of the reasons why scouts suck in this game, by the way. They're just slow everywhere. At least they're buffing them now, so they're actually really useful for some stuff besides getting to places big trucks can't go, since they're too big. Anyway, the yard finally takes a win here, which I'm sure is something everyone was waiting for. The CK and Dawn finish at the exact same time, which is biblically accurate for those two. The aforementioned ground clearance problem is very obvious on the old loaf, by the way, which I sucked at driving for some reason. At this point, I think we can finally talk about why the Hummer H1 and old loaf were performing so badly. As you can see from the Hummer, it's completely high-centered in the water, meaning the bottom of the car is dragging against the surface. Obviously this isn't good, and it means they aren't getting any grip from the tires since the tires can't reach the ground. Since this is Almaty, I also got the AAC here, which, by the way, that was one of the whole points I got the DLC, was for the AAC, and that thing is so bad. It's so low to the ground, I can't get it through mud, I can't get it through water, I can't get it over rocks. Like, what's the point of having a scout if I can't go anywhere with it? It's supposedly an S-tier DLC scout, but it has the same exact issue as the worst scouts in the game, so it's pretty much useless for me. And before you say, oh, you're not supposed to take scouts on bad terrain, so what? I'll do it anyway. Anyway, the yard finally takes a win here, which I'm sure is something everybody was waiting for, considering it's been doing way worse than I thought it would this entire time. And I just got bored of the 800 at this point, so I pulled it up with the Dawn for fun. And this is where I parked up everything for the thumbnail. You get a nice little behind the scenes there. And now, finally, after all that mess, we can get onto the Tatarin. Enjoy a nice scenic view of Almaty because I'm just sightseeing this entire route since I'm pretty sure this is not going to get stuck anywhere. If you're wondering about what time it got, it's a Tatarin. Assume it beat every single test in half the time as the first place car.